Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a fantastic show for you. First and foremost, let's talk about what's happening with the latest with the CBC as our sister Suzette Speaks is back in the space. I'm really excited to connect with her, talk to her about at least the CBC situation and what's going on with this LETITIA James case. Also, folks, can we at least talk about single moms? I'm gonna have a dope sister coming on the show to talk about the work that she's doing with challenging the stigma of single motherhood. And then later, we're going to talk about ensuring the success of Black youth and businesses as we check with one economic administrator out of the Miami-Dade County area. So we got a lot to talk about. Stay tuned. It's all going to be happening in a few moments right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. I'm your host. I'm very excited to connect with you once again. Folks, make sure you do your due diligence, do justice. Make sure you join us in the conversation. Only space that you can join us in the conversation the way we engage you. That's right. We are streaming live right now on YouTube. Just go to Roland Martin's YouTube page and join the chat as we are connecting with folks all across this country and in some parts of the globe. As part of our culture crew, we would love to have your thoughts and for you to connect with us in our YouTube chat. Also, we're streaming on Facebook. We're also streaming on Amazon News or your Fire TV. And we're on Plex TV. And you can find us on those spaces 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we would love to connect with you. And of course, go to our home website at blackstarnetwork.com. Do your due diligence. Support us there financially. Make sure you follow us on social media and also check out all of the dope content that we are always streaming. There's always something happening and we're always streaming some great things. So make sure you can check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. All right, folks, it is Wednesday. And, I have my sister from another brother, always another mother, always checking in with us. I'm very excited because I haven't seen her. You know what I'm saying? She out and about doing her thing all across the country, being great. So my sister Suzette Speaks, who is the attorney and TV host, Suzette Speaks, checking in all the way from the great city of Miami, Florida.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good to be back.
Absolutely. All right, Suzette, let's start the conversation. You went to the Congressional Black Caucus 52nd Legislative Annual Convention Conference. And we talked a little bit about that, but what's the big update? What's some of the big things that you walked away from that conference from? Except for not getting into, we'll talk about this later. You had a chance to visit the studios of Black Star Network, but that's another thing. That's another conversation.
I did. That was my highlights. Hello, everybody. It's good to be back. Suzette Speaks in the building, representing 305. I'm so happy to be here. And I had an amazing time this past week when I was away in Washington, D.C., as Farajii said, attending the 56th Annual Leadership Conference and Legislative Conference from the Congressional Black Caucus. First and foremost, I want to say if you ever have an opportunity to attend, you should. Whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and up, you will find your crowd. I found that very unique about this conference. There were so many different demographic segments represented. There were over 75 different events planned in conjunction with this conference. So basically for what it is, for people who may not understand what is supposed to happen during this weekend. So most of the Congress members who are Black present information about legislation that they are sponsoring or looking to sponsor in order to solve a problem or issue affecting the Black community. So again, this is an annual legislative conference. So there are conversations that are held in the format of forums where we are listening to not only the U.S. House of Representative member or the U.S. Senator in the case of Raphael Warnock, We are hearing from thought leaders in those spaces around issues that affect Black people. I'm talking about from transportation to veterans affairs to Black maternal health, to AI in the Black community, transportation, and how you can, as a small business, apply for dollars equally in the federal government. And like I said, 75 different sessions. You were literally running from one to another. So many good sessions were actually happening simultaneously that I was spending 30 minutes in one and 20 minutes in another and trying to get to another. So what I would say we took away from this was that there was an exchange in what I would call a brain trust. The people who work on these issues on the ground, right? The folks who are in the legislative body who can make laws to help us resolve or address these issues adequately vis-a-vis the federal government. And of course, we had advocacy groups, we had lay people. You do not have to be involved in politics to have taken away something or have given something, because this is also a time where regular everyday people get to have an exchange with their elected officials. I don't know about you, but many folks never get to meet their United States Senator or their congressperson or their state house reps or state senators. But we had an opportunity to speak directly to the people about the issues that matter most. I will say highlighted, there was a forum about Young, Gifted, and Black. Maxine Waters had T.I., Yo-Yo, and MC Light was scheduled to be there talking about the evolution of hip hop. But more importantly, this Rap Act, I would say, I look at it much differently now, Farajii, when it's talking about why young Black men who happen to are rappers or happen to be in the music industry talk about lyrics that are, purportedly sharing information about maybe illegal or supposed illegal acts that they take part in. I really learned a lot about the wealth, the economic engine that nowadays our most popular rappers provide for their community. There was information given about the number of millionaires created around each and every rapper that you see that kind of becomes this viral sensation, how much more money they are earning than their predecessors, and why some believe this is an attempt to remove them and their influence, right? Not only the economic engines that they've become for their families, their friends, and their community, essentially building millionaires around them, but what it would mean to silence them in many other cases sometimes leads us to the real root as to why they have become the target of this First Amendment attack. But there were, like I said, I could go into Haiti and the diaspora. I went to a couple panels on Haiti and what's going on there. Of course, being from South Florida, where we have a large Haitian diaspora population. I sat with Spike Lee's wife, who had produced a movie on the sad, untimely deaths of two young Black mothers who, through no fault of their own, did the right thing, were in good shape, had husbands, and were well supported in their maternal journey, but still were ill-treated and mistreated, and therefore lost their lives in the delivery room. There were so many topics. My heart is full. When I tell you I'm overjoyed with the networking and just listening to what's going on, because what happens is there's also an exchange between states. When you hear what's going on in a Michigan, in a Georgia, can we take that as a blueprint into a Florida, into a Mississippi? I had a wonderful gospel experience. They have gospel nights and healing breakfasts, all these other spiritual aspects that sometimes our community loves also to partake in. But overall, like I said, the real work now starts on Capitol Hill. We've had the brain trust, we've had the exchange of ideas, we've had the update, the teaching, the opening up of the conversations with lay people and their civic leaders. It was an amazing event, and baby, I will be there next year. Trust and believe. I can't wait.
You gonna be there next year though?
I'm ready already. It was an amazing weekend. It was an amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate. First, I appreciate, and we appreciate the fact that you kind of just broke down just a little bit of some of the things, because some folks may not even understand how detailed and how in depth those conversations go, and because sometimes those things aren't really put out there on the public. I mean, we know that they're special, like there was the Phoenix Awards presentation and certain elements. But when you're talking about those workshops, that's where a lot of, and I love how you said it, the brain trust that's where a lot of the work starts to really kick in, that you're in those workshops, you're not just lollygagging and wasting time. You're thinking and strategizing how to deal with certain issues and problems, right? And that's what I found to be the best part of those type of conferences. That especially when you have all of this brilliance, all of this, insight, all of these resources in terms of human capital. Like you got all of these people in the same space at the same time. We should be walking out of that situation empowered, just like you have been empowered, heart full, ready and renewed to get back to work. And so, it's a beautiful thing. I know I saw my mayor Karen Bass. She was there as well. And I mean, when you read through the all of the news about it, like the who's there and everything, just to remove the less celebrity Hollywood style type of politics that we've been accustomed to, and getting down to the grassroots of, how we're going to make the quality of life for Black folks and other people in this country better. And I think that's what I always want to hear. Did you get a sense that people walked out of there? And I know we got to take our first pause, but did you get a sense that folks walked out of there feeling like, you know what? This things are going to get better. We even though we might be facing some real challenges now, we got what it takes to make things better.
100%. I think this was an opportunity for folks to become much more educated on the issues and what the legislative approach looks like. And, again, what their local congressional leaders were doing, and again, what the national landscape looks like as well. So, yes, there was so many opportunities just to get full and be poured into. Who gets to meet, a Jim Clyburn in person and talk to him and shake his hand and ask him what he's working on and things like this. I think there were very fruitful discussions. And now we will see, what they learned from. Pretty much the audience was just as much as the expert as the people sitting on the stage. When the people asked questions, absolutely, I was listening like, oh, okay, sis, you could have been a presenter. And, what they're offering while the Congress people are sitting directly there and their staff are in the room taking notes as to what is occurring. I think, yes, we will have some forward movement as a result of all that took place this weekend in D.C.
Absolutely. We got to take our first pause. And again, we thank you so much for that update, Suzette. When we come forward, folks, let's get another set of updates, and then we check in with Suzette about the LETITIA James court case. This is the court case against Donald Trump, what was determined in that court case and how it will impact his legal situation. With that, also, we're going to have some other conversations with one woman who and her and another sister are looking to challenge the stigma around being single mothers. So we'll have that conversation up next and a whole lot more. Folks, we're just getting started. Make sure you join us right now on the chat. We are streaming live on YouTube. Just go under Roland Martin on YouTube. Join us in the chat as we're streaming live. Click on that link and be a part of the Culture Crew today and join us in the conversation. Stay with us, folks. We got a lot to cover in the next couple of minutes here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
On his first day in office, with the country in crisis, President Biden got to work for us. Cutting Black child poverty in half, more money for Black entrepreneurs, millions of new, good-paying jobs. He's lowered the cost of living and prescription drugs. But there's more to do. He gets it because we all deserve dignity, safety, respect, and a chance to do more than just get by, but to get ahead.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When
talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Checking in with my sister, Suzette Speaks, who you can check out here every Wednesday on the culture. I want to bring my sister back into the frame here. Suzette, let's talk about LETITIA James, the New York attorney, state's attorney, excuse me. Let me make sure I put some respect on her name. New York Attorney General, excuse me.
Attorney General.
Yes. Attorney General. Who went to court to move forward in this process of, putting out the case and showing the evidence that the Trump organization defrauded banks and insurers and several people by overvaluing their assets. And it has been official that Judge Arthur Egaron ruled in the civil lawsuit that he found that Trump and his companies are guilty of defrauding banks. He ordered that some of Trump's business licenses be rescinded as punishment, making it difficult or impossible for them to do business in the state of New York. He said he would continue to have an independent monitor oversee the Trump organization operations. But he has officially said that Trump committed fraud for years while building his real estate empire. So my question is, Suzette, if he has been found guilty of committing fraud, outside of getting his businesses rescinded, his licenses rescinded, is this punishable by time in jail? Or, is this just because it's a white collar crime? This is the maximum punishment. What are we looking at here?
So once again, one of the many lawsuits that have been filed against former President Trump. This one is a New York State case. Remember, we have federal law and we have New York State law. So New York's Attorney General, the 67th one, LETITIA James, brought this case. You guys might remember her press conference just over a year ago, talking about the evidence that she collected with an army of investigators, showing, as she alleges, that Mr. Trump and his organization and on those who are associated with it overvalued his assets in order to get an advantage when seeking out loans and insurance policies. And this boils down to whether or not, when we say the word fraud, whether or not they lied, right? Whether they, on official documents that was submitted to banks, when they were trying to refinance properties, buy and sell properties, and even when they were paying taxes. The allegations really amount to, Farajii, them creating this overinflated book of assets in order to gain an advantage in business. So you can't, for example, just downright lie that your penthouse, say, is worth 20 million when in fact it's only worth 2 million. So it's kind of an over exaggeration and downright fraud of a grand scale that allowed him both the mythology that we've come to know that allowed him eventually to run for president, that he was this great businessman. But Letitia James's case has pretty much already laid out, based on what the judge's ruling was yesterday, that this has been a complete fraud and fabrication as far as his business and asset valuation. So the case will go to trial. She has set a date of October 2nd under this same judge. But the first part is to, in a civil case, this is not a criminal case. Criminal case, we look at jail time, right? This is a civil case, which means we are looking at punishment in damages, which would be fines or penalties. So she is seeking in her ask $250 million in fines, saying that over the course of this extended period of time, he has, in some ways, this is the allegation, avoided taxes, because when he wanted the business loans and refinancing and was selling the property, he would purportedly overvalue his asset. Yeah. When he went to go pay taxes on the paperwork, he would put that they were undervalued. So she's saying that within, the body of evidence that she has been able to collect, that it's showing a direct and, what should I say, a very damning pattern of trying to thwart doing fair business with banks, with insurers, such that Mr. Trump and his organization got an immense advantage and took, advantage of a system that does not allow us simply to lie about our valuation of assets within the business frameworks we have. So we're looking at the judge now in this first ruling saying, well, we can agree on the fraud. Right now we'll go to damages. This will not be a jury trial. It will be decided by this one judge. He's saying facts are so overwhelming that this is exactly what took place, that I don't need to put this in front of a jury. I can rule that basically as a matter of fact, basically accepting into the record that what was alleged looks as if it is completely true, that Mr. Trump and his organizations, you can call them co-conspirators, but I would say business managers, his son Eric, Trump Jr., his lawyers, his CFO. There are, I think, about 6 individuals mentioned in this ruling, where the judge first took the step of revoking the business certificate. In other states, it might be called like the business license for them to do business. So this is a deep blow. All those Trump Towers, all the other real estate that he owns technically. Yeah. I've heard it called, an out of order sign to be put on these businesses. But it's basically his certificate has been revoked, which is step one. But the remainder of the trial will proceed next week. So we'll see what damages, if in fact he's found that he must pay, how much damages he will and fines he will incur.
Wow. Let me go to the crew because folks are checking in. Pretty Brown Mimi 726. Mimi, good afternoon. You said between Tish James and the sister Fonnie Willis in Georgia, one of them is going to get Trump. Yes, it looks like that might be the case. Turn the page. Thank you so much, Mimi. Turn the page. You checked in and said Letitia James is a badass times 10. She and Fonnie Willis operate without fear. You're right. Real Brooklyn, thank you. Turn the page. Real Brooklyn, my brother, you said Letitia J has been legit for a minute. She was doing big things during the de Blasio era, which makes her even more formidable. My worry is she could be using the Trump issue to catapult her status. And I know we got to take another pause, but very quickly, what's your take on that, Suzette? Do you feel like there's some other intentions and motivations behind this or what? But
I think, again, you must follow the law no matter who you are. People just happen to see this former president, of course, with his celebrity as a, quote, target that some would purport that she's using somehow for political gain. But the fact is that no one is above the law. If you do business in, for example, the state of New York, you, no matter if you're the former president or anyone else, you cannot lie on your documents, submit them to banks, try to get loans and try to get refinancing and all kinds of business advantages based on falsehoods, right? False numbers. At the end of the day, the evidence speaks for itself. So looking at the amount of assets that he actually had versus what he'd been claiming that he's worth and he's this great businessman, I think it's just exposing the reality based on the facts, right? So we got to be very careful. She happens to be a high profile Democrat in that state. She can't help that. She has a job to do, right? And I think that she's doing it.
Trump said, and of course, Trump will respond to this latest ruling against him. He said that this is a decision that he calls un-American, Suzette. He said, my quote, my civil rights have been violated, and some appellate court, whether federal or state, must reverse this horrible un-American decision. He wrote this on his Truth Social site. He said he insisted his company has done a magnificent job for New York State and done business perfectly, calling it a very sad day for the New York State system of justice.
He has a right to appeal. I mean, I know he will file.
He will appeal. He will appeal.
But,
he will appeal. His lawyer, his lawyer, Christopher Akai, said that they will appeal, calling the decision completely disconnected from the facts and governing law.
Okay. Well, like I said, we'll see when the trial begins. There were, over 8 hours of deposition taken by Mr. Trump where he took, and he has the right to, the Fifth Amendment over 400 times. And you do have a right not to incriminate yourself or to, make it seem as if you are involved in any way where, something that you say could be misconstrued. So he has that right. But there's just evidence and facts. And from that, again, this judge already has said, there has been fraud. That's the first thing. And then someone's saying, you're not saying guilty because it's not criminal law. But again, did fraud take place? And this judge in this very contentious and testy hearing, he was banging his fist. You cannot lie on documents. Like during the hearing, he said it was a big back and forth between both sets of lawyers and this judge. So this is a very serious allegation. And again, you can't cover it up. It's in the court of law now. So we will see. They, again, have the right to appeal. Mr. Trump, again, is innocent until proven guilty. But this is a damning blow to his legal defense.
Absolutely. We will certainly see. All right, folks, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's check in with our sister Nefertiti Plessy, who is the CEO of Single Moms Planet. And one of the big things that they're trying to do is challenge the stigma about single motherhood. We're going to talk to her about what they're doing in this effort and so much more as it relates to single moms. Stay with us. That conversation is up next right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
President Biden has delivered for Black America. More funding for Black entrepreneurs. Millions of new good-paying jobs. He's lowering the cost of medications and the cost of living. Joe Biden is delivering for us, and that's the facts.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Wanted to switch gears because I want to talk about an issue that we have been saying a little bit about, but over the past couple of years, the landscape around this conversation has changed dramatically. There has been more talk about women being single mothers, dads being single fathers, single parent household, the impact that they have on children. And all of this, and it has led to many nuanced conversations. Now, there has been a number of new statistics that have come out to show that this is a changing dynamic in America, that the family unit is looking much more different, especially considering there's a decline in marriage. Did you notice, folks, that there's a decline in marriage in the United States that crosses class lines, but is far more pronounced, according to the study, among Americans without college degrees. They have found that college-educated Americans, though on average more politically progressive, continue to form their families in traditional ways, first marriage and babies. They get married later on. But among poor American adults, ages 18 to 55, just 26% are married compared to more than half of middle and upper class adults. Now, let's take this thing further. They have also found, according to one Johns Hopkins sociologist, that between 2017 and 2018, 24.5% of college-educated women were unmarried when they birthed their first child. Now, this is a huge increase from 1996, when just 4% were unmarried. But among Americans with less education, the results are even more startling. Between 2017 and 2018, 86.5% of women without a high school degree gave birth while unmarried, as did more than 60% of those with a high school diploma. The numbers also reflect stark inequities among racial lines. Close to 3/4 of Black mothers have a child outside of marriage, compared with 66% of American Indian and Native American, 53% of Hispanic, and 29% of whites. Wow. So here to give us some insight about the work that they're doing around this issue and to really challenge the stigma of single mothers is my sister Nefertiti Plessy, who serves as the CEO of Single Moms Planet. Nefertiti, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. You see my sister Suzette Speaks is also joining us as well, but we're very excited to have you. How you feeling this afternoon?
I'm feeling great. I love the conversation that you were having prior to me coming on board. So, excited to jump in.
Oh, okay. Fine. You can always jump in anytime. Anytime you come on the show, just jump right in. Don't even announce it. Just be like, "Hey, Farajii, what's up?" Um, First and foremost, breaking down just a little bit of these statistics that really a lot of when you're talking about being unmarried, single motherhood we're seeing a higher number of these cases or these type of households, especially among women who are considered quote unquote poor, who are don't have college degrees. But you're doing something different with Single Moms Planet. You're trying to change this whole culture and this dynamic. First, talk to us about the work of Single Moms Planet.
Single Moms Planet, we are all about shifting that narrative that you just described. A lot of what you hear on, the news or in the media, or even just conversations online, there's a sector of single mothers that are experiencing that, but there are also a huge sector of single mothers that are not having that experience at all. They're educated, they are self-sufficient, they're taking care of themselves, they're dating. Some of them are co-parenting successfully. They're going through therapy, they're connecting with their communities and really starting their own companies and businesses. And those are the single mothers that we've been attracting with Single Moms Planet. So it's been a beautiful thing to be able to really create a story that doesn't have that same narrative that a lot of the media is communicating to us.
So a lot of that is, and I'm sure you've been hearing this as a Black woman, that the picture, the visual of the single mom is a Black woman. The picture of a single mom is a Black woman that lives in urban centers in some of your major cities. Talk to us about this. Like, how do you shift the culture? How do you change that narrative when it's so focused and targeted the way it is?
Well, there definitely are more Caucasian single mothers than there are Black single mothers.
All right, let's stop right there, Nefertiti. I want you to say that loud and clear.
There are more white Caucasian single mothers than there are Black single mothers. And there are also more of them on financial assistance from the government as well.
That's absolute fact.
That is a fact. When we get, even in our communication, because we're a community organization, we don't only focus on the Black mother. And we purposely did that because a lot of the narrative is that this is a Black welfare mother, multiple baby daddy issue in our community as Black people. And so we actually wanted to open it up to all single mothers so that we could really see what was going on here. And definitely we are seeing that we have sometimes we have more white women present at our events. Even white women that are older have come to our events to even just say, I'm 80 years old. I raised my children many years ago by myself because my husband left me or my husband died in a war. And so sometimes, the media in movies and even sometimes even the communication that we create ourselves in the movies and then the film that we create is depicting a storyline that is not all the way accurate.
So and then Suzanne, I don't want to dominate the conversation. You can jump right in. So how did it get to that place? Is it Hollywood? Is it us and our culture? How did it get to that place, Nefertiti, that has become the face, a Black woman has become the face of single motherhood?
I think we're an easy target, right? We're an easy target. And just even the history of how single motherhood came to place, just wanting the father not to be in the household so that the mother could receive benefits. And maybe her husband, when it's actually in war, he comes back, he's mentally ill, he can't hold a job or he can't get a job. So then he's displaced out of the household because he can't really bring in enough income to bring in more than what the government is offering. So it is a way for them to divide that household. And it's unfortunate. That's why we really focus in Single Moms Planet on co-parenting. How do we have healthy co-parenting relationships? We actually mentor both mother and father within our organization and make sure that we're focusing on the children, right? We're making sure that the children are having that full encompass experience of having a community around them.
Suzette, what's your take of that?
I have such a deep question, but I think we're right up on on the break. I will like to add to Nefertari's response that this came about really strongly in the Reagan administration. You have to remember that term welfare queen came out of his lips. And so we, as Black women, have really never escaped that stereotype, right? Stereotypes are there to kind of, make us marginalized and to be deemed less than. And of course, the media from then on took liberties to portray us, from the 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, as the face of, what is really a predominantly white woman, landscape. But again, we tend to be easy targets, as she said. And so you see a lot more Black faces on this issue when, again, the majority of single mothers in the United States are white. So we just want to say that one more time. I know we have to take a hard break, but I have a question when we come back.
Oh man, we definitely got to do that one. We got, and that's what I'm saying. We got to put that out there because even Black folks, and I think to your point, Nefertari, even Black folks, we have accepted that view, right? To the point where Black men, it's a constant part of the gender conversation that happens within our community. Brothers say, man, these sisters want me to take care of their babies. Nah, bro. Nah, bro. You know what I mean? You might have some sisters that have those expectations, but I truly don't believe that is for a lot of Black women with children. Matter of fact, I think a lot of Black children don't want you to take on that burden, but that's a bigger conversation. And that's the type of conversation. And I know, Nefertari, you're in so many different spaces that you probably hear the gambit of excuses to reasons as to why, this is a true fact when in actuality it's not.
It's absolutely not. And even when we communicate with the fathers and the men in our communities, every man that I know takes care of his children. He's not watching his children. He's taking care of his children. Emotionally, mentally, financially, he's there. Right. And he's taking them to the ball games. He's providing for the family. He's the protector as well. And so I think that definitely as we're having these conversations and bringing this type of information to the forefront, it's needed in our community. It's a healing that needs to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Folks, we're going to take another quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation with our very special guest, Nefertari Plessy, CEO, co-founder of Single Moms Planet, talking to us about challenging the stigma of single moms. We also joined by my sister, our great culture crew member, Suzette Speaks. And of course, by you, I'm going to share with folks your take on this conversation as well. So stay with us. A lot more of the discussion is up next. Plus, we're going to talk about how we can ensure the success of Black youth and Black businesses. So we got a lot to get to in the second half of the show. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
On his first day in office, with the country in crisis, President Biden got to work for us. Cutting Black child poverty in half, more money for Black entrepreneurs, millions of new, good-paying jobs. He's lowered the cost of living and prescription drugs. But there's more to do. He gets it because we all deserve dignity, safety, respect, and a chance to do more than just get by, but to get ahead.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation as we're streaming live on blackstarnetwork.com. You can check us out there. That's our home website. We're also streaming live on Amazon News, on your Fire TV and Plex TV. And on those two platforms, you can find us there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're also streaming on social media on Facebook and YouTube. And it's on YouTube where you can just go onto Roland Martin's YouTube page and you will be able to find our beloved culture crew. This is the group of folks that have checked in every day and love to be a part of the conversation and engaged in the discussions. And folks, you can have a chance to do the same, posting your thoughts, sharing your ideas, and asking your questions. So just go on Roland Martin's YouTube page and join us in the chat and be a culture crew member for the day. We've been checking in with our sister, Nefertiti Plessy, who serves as the CEO and co-founder of the organization Single Moms Planet, as we talk about challenging the stigma of single moms, single motherhood. And I'm also joined by my sister, Suzette Speak, who is a host of her own show on YouTube, as well as an attorney out of the state of Florida. Nefertiti, I want to go kind of speak to something that Suzette, you kicked it off with before the pause. You talked about this important point of knowing and really internalizing the fact that white women, statistically, based on the data, has a high single motherhood rate than Black women. But you had another question as well you want to pose, right, Suzette?
Yeah, this is such a complex issue. And thank you again for highlighting it in a positive way. I feel like I want to ask you questions, but people always ask me, well, why are you single? Like, there's so many reasons why people are in the condition of being a single mother. So I know you can't answer that for everybody. And I think there's a lot of assumptions, especially when it comes to Black women. Again, even though the majority, the vast, largest group of single parents in the United States are non-Hispanic, white women and men. We'll say that one more time for the people in the back. We are looked at, especially in the Black community, with kind of this eye of judgment. And I think about it sometimes when I'm like, well, a single mother is not, created in a vacuum, by herself, right? There's an active other participant in, her journey. So I wonder if, and this is just playing devil's advocate, because I think people will hear this and say, Single Moms Planet, yeah, all y'all want to be single. Here we go. All y'all are anti-marriage, or, you don't value the Black man. Or I can hear these conversations because in YouTube, sometimes in different spaces, to be a single mom is just, this scarlet letter that for whatever reason, however you became that, after a divorce, after a widowing, or whatever way it happened, there's still almost only one party that is quote unquote, and I'll use this because that's what's used in the culture, is blamed, right? That there's something that you did as a woman to, you know, disintegrate or to not maintain a loving relationship so that there would be a quote healthy family. So I guess how do you combat people who try to pigeonhole or stereotype, you know, all single moms as kind of coming into this journey the same way? And can you speak to the issue of, you know, can you be both for single moms and creating a safe space for single moms and also value long-term healthy relationships with men? Well, I don't know if that's so complex, but those are what's going in my mind right now.
Yes, absolutely. We do get that question, and we make it a point to have men involved in our organization. One of our number one volunteer spaces are actually married couples. Anytime we've had many of our moms even become married while they're inside of our programming, right? So they start new families, even just counseling and coaching the mothers and the fathers to make sure they have healthy co-parenting relationships. I have a very healthy co-parenting relationship with my ex-husband. And so a lot of what we are communicating and training comes from myself and my co-founder, Cole Patterson, and our relationships that we have with the fathers of our children and our ex-husbands, because it's like, look, a lot of the times we don't have the answers. Sometimes you're learning as you go. But if you really set aside what it is that you have at stake and put in what it is that's really at stake is really the children, right? Having healthy families for the children. And we focus on that a lot. So when we focus on families for the children, we have women bringing their mothers to our events, grandfathers, mothers are bringing their brothers, their sisters, their cousins. This is a community organization, right? So even though we're called Single Moms Planet, we need the support of the community for us to actually raise these children and have harmonious relationships with the family unit. It doesn't just take one person to raise a child. And some of our moms, they are experiencing being completely isolated in raising their children alone. Maybe both of their parents have passed away and their partner is nowhere to be found. That does happen. And that's where organizations like Single Moms Planet comes in. You know, we provide counseling, we provide support through financial literacy. That's our number one key pillar. We also go into business development and climbing that corporate ladder so that mom really gets her financial foundation in order. And then we also support with childcare as well. So childcare and summer camp are two of the most highest ranked areas where mothers are just losing it because they don't have the financial wherewithal to cover all the things. And so when we go into Single Moms Planet and we target the community with our messaging, we really make it a point to shift our narrative and shift our messaging. Even the reason why I started the organization was because my mother raised me as a single mother, and she's a working single mother. And I didn't experience this down and out lifestyle that was being depicted on the media. My mother went to work, she went to school, she was active, she's in like the best shape of her life. She travels, we traveled together when I was younger, and she just figured out how to make it work. And I believe that as I started investigating and really not listening to the media, but talking to the mothers individually, having coffees, having lunches, and then creating events and community, I realized that more women that were in the single mother space or the co-parenting space were like my mother. They weren't like what the media was depicting us.
Down and out and downtrodden and a lot of single moms I know have 2 and 3 degrees.
They do.
Right? Some were married, some were not, right?
Yeah.
Some the relationship didn't work out, but they're highly educated people that are single moms,
exactly.
right? Who can provide, as you said, the financial resources by themselves, while there are definitely single moms who struggle. And I want to ask you, what do you find single moms need most as far as the community?
They need space to create their dreams. That's the thing they need the most. A lot of the single moms are launching their children day in, day out, minute to minute, moment to moment, and their dreams get put to the side. And so we really create that space for them to ignite that fire again in their lives and really go after what they want. And then giving them the room to ask themselves, what do they want? A lot of the times we're just operating. No one's asking us, how are we really doing, right? When someone says, how are you? We start talking about our children. We disassociate with the fact that I'm a woman. Yes, I'm a mother, but I'm a woman first. I'm Nefertiri. Who am I? What do I really want from my life? right? Because at some point, my children are older now. These children have a whole life of their own. So they do not stay underneath mama for the rest of their lives, right? So, and that's our goal, right? We want them to launch and be successful. So it's like, how do we really let that mom create that space for herself to dream big?
I love it. I love it. Now, Terry, I got to ask about, and there's so many questions, and Suzette, that's why I enjoy having you on the show. You causing me to think, and I'm like, damn, which question I'm going to ask? But the mental health of children, this has often been a part of the conversation, right? Like we could talk about, and I love what you just said about women. Like I'm a woman first, I'm a mother. That's one of the many roles that I play in my life. I'm a mother, but I'm a woman. So when we look at the mental health of our children, if they find that their parents are not getting along, and look, I'm a huge advocate of women and men not being a part of relationships that are broken. It does nothing. And I think, but all of us here, we have all heard that was the kind of like the culture of our grandparents, where our grandmother and grandfather, they weren't happy, but they stayed just for the children. And now we're in a space where a lot of women in particular are saying, no, I can't stay just for the children because I'm going to lose that happiness within myself. So I wanted to kind of get your sense of like, what are you hearing? What do you hear from children? How do you address the mental health that if mom and dad were once in a household and that's not the case anymore? How do you ensure that the mental health of the child still stays intact, still stays healthy, still stays respectful? So when dad comes into the picture, or even when mom comes back into the picture, that there's still love, there's still this respect there. How does that happen?
We love to start off with the mother and then also her parents, right? So a lot of what we are taught about love and care and connection is from our parents, right? So we want to make sure that the mom and then also her nucleus support is also feeling that support and that healing. We have multiple licensed psychologists and therapists that are a part of our organization that pour into our mothers through our conferences and our communications. When we get to the children's space, we really want to make sure that the children are heard, right? So a lot of the times we feel like the children are not speaking to us. Okay, well, why? What environment did I create that made the children feel they can't communicate? Or the children may have experienced witnessing domestic violence, or they may have been a part of domestic violence disputes. And so there are definitely programming that we put the children and the mothers through that are through our licensed therapist partners that help allocate that. Our main focus is just making sure that there is a healthy mindset, that the children are thriving and that they're happy and healthy. And we get rid of our egos, right? Like that's the number one thing. We have to get rid of our egos and put them to the side in order for us to have those breakthroughs for our children and for them to feel safe.
Absolutely. I got one more question, then we're going to have to take another pause. But what do you say to people who say, oh, single moms planet, they're glorifying single motherhood? Has your view of the family unit changed? I mean, personally, since you've been doing this work, Nefertiti, and for your partner, Cole, has it changed now that you are in this space? Because I know we all kind of grew up and been conditioned, hey, when I get married, I'm going to stay married. I'm going to find my partner and it's going to be great and all of that stuff. But life happens. People change. Things happen, right? So does your personal view and how is that incorporated into your work? Did you have to mature and say, hey, you know what? This is my new family space. And I'm going to start this organization to help to uplift and empower. But what do you say to people who say, but you still seem like you're glorifying it?
Right. So what we are doing is actually creating a space for the mom to have healing, right? And when the mom has healing, which is what the same healing we had to go through, it allows us to actually grow our community and empower our community. We can't hide from the fact that there are single mothers. There are women who are doing in vitro. There are women who are co-parenting. There are women who are choosing to adopt, right? So there's so many different layers as to how a woman becomes a single mother or a co-parenting single mother. And so we step out of the way of how she identifies herself and just really bring her the resources that she needs. For Cole and I, and especially for myself as well, as our children got older, I have 2 teenage boys now. They live with their father primarily. He has 80% and I'm with the children 20%. I go to all the games. I'm like the assistant. He's still head of the household. Even when we co-parented and we were not together, I still looked at him and honored him as head of the household. Those are his children. Those are his sons, period. No matter who I have in my life, if I repartner or remarry, he's still their father. And so even when we're communicating and teaching our women and having these conversations, we communicate with them like that, as far as giving each other the honor and the space as who you are as parents first, and then how you're going to go about co-parenting and raising those children, no matter who comes into that circle, right? It's still mom and dad first, right? How do you respect each other? How do you honor each other? And how do you show that love so that it exudes into the children in the end?
Hey, Suzanne, I don't know about you. That sounds like some maturity right there.
That is some great perspective.
That sounds like some, yo.
We can get a little bit more of that. My God.
Boy.
Way to go.
And I know, hey, look, hey, Nefertari, I know, hey, look, I know we got to take a break, but I got to say, I know it took some, I know it took some
evolution.
A lot of self-work, a lot of healing, a lot of prayer. Yes. I know it took some of that, but I'm telling you, that is, and a big shout out to you, to the father of your children, because
it's amazing.
And look, we announced yesterday that we're going to be hosting a Black Men's Summit in October, and this is actually one of the pieces that we're going to talk about Black men in family units, because a lot of people don't know this, but Black men who are divorced, Black men who go through any type of change, major change in their relationship, and they have children, they suffer from everything from depression to a high level of loneliness, because they don't have the support systems in place like women do, like a Single Moms Planet. So I'm happy to see that you have a space for dads to come in as well. But Black men suffer in silence because of, their relationship with their primary partner has changed dramatically, and they got children and they got to raise children and all of that. And so they got to go through that. So this is all love right here. This is absolutely fantastic. I know I got to take another pause. We got another special guest bringing on, but I want to kind of put this out there, Nefertari, because, we'll be talking soon. What's the website? Let's put up the website and how people can support the work that you're doing.
Definitely. So we're at singlemomsplanet.org, and all of our social media is at Single Moms Planet. We have a beautiful community. We'd love for you to participate. We have amazing events that are happening throughout the U.S. Our hub is in Los Angeles, California. So check out our website and you'll be able to see all the things that we're doing in the community for single mothers and just the family unit in general.
Absolutely. That's my sister, Nefertari Plessy. Oh, man, Suzette, any other words for Nefertari?
No, keep it up. Thank you. Thank you for dispelling the stereotypes.
Thank you so much, sis. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, make sure y'all do your due diligence. Go to singlemomsplanet.org, get all the latest news and information. And if you want to volunteer, especially if you're in the Los Angeles area, make sure you do your due diligence and be a part of the solution there. All right, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to continue the conversation. Let's talk about how do you ensure the success of Black youth? How do you ensure the success of Black businesses? How do you ensure Black life is successful? We're going to continue that conversation on the other side with a dynamic brother, Dr. Marcus Bright, who's going to talk to us about the work he's doing in the Miami-Dade County area and so much more. Just stay tuned. It's all happening in a few moments right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
President Biden has delivered for Black America. More funding for Black entrepreneurs. Millions of new good-paying jobs. He's lowering the cost of medications and the cost of living. Joe Biden is delivering for us, and that's the facts.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Got my sister, Suzette Speaks, host and attorney out of the state of Florida. Man, oh, man. Man, oh, man, Suzette.
Yes,
now it got me thinking about families and young people and whatnot, man.
Yes.
That was dope, man. That was absolutely, that's true.
Fresh take on single motherhood. I really enjoyed that.
Absolutely. Now, you also got a very special guest of a brother who is doing his part to empower young people and getting them on track. Let's talk to us about our next special guest.
Yes, thank you for making some room on today's show for Dr. Marcus Bright. I am a friend, in full disclosure. I've had him on my show on YouTube. But I want to talk about some of the dynamic research they have been doing through an organization called the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust. And I know we have a quick slide on that, but basically it's one of the, and I'll go ahead and read it. You guys can put it up, please. And Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust's mission is to ensure the equitable participation of Blacks in Miami-Dade County's economic growth through advocacy and monitoring of economic conditions and economic development initiatives in Miami-Dade County. So this is what happened. MDEAT funded and released a University of Miami commission study examining youth arrests trends in Miami-Dade from 2010 to 2022. The study reveals that Black youth were arrested at a dramatically disproportionate rate despite of being statistical minorities. Among other revelations, the study noted that Black male youth accounted for, here's the number, Farajii, 52% of arrests in 2022, despite accounting for only 9% of the 10 to 17-year-olds. So just to give you an idea, that was for the youth population. Black residents on a whole, we only take up about 14.11% of the entire population of Miami-Dade County. So I wanted him to come on today to help us to highlight this research. Miami-Dade is not by itself. You know, we are a macrocosm of a lot of big cities and what is happening. And we know about the school to prison pipeline. We know that, you know, this can unfortunately set our youth back, before they even have begun. So I wanted him to have the opportunity to highlight some of his research and what can be done about this issue.
Well, welcome, Dr. Marcus Bright. Thank you so much, dear brother, for joining us here on The Culture. How you feeling this? How you feeling today? Uh-oh, we got you on.
Oh,
There we
we're on
go.
mute.
You're on mute, brother. We got
I'm
you.
feeling great. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Suzette is as she's talking about the work that you're doing. First, what was the inspiration? My question, Dr. Bright, is what was the inspiration behind even putting this data together?
Well, our executive director, Mr. Bill Diggs, he, in looking at youth arrest data in Miami-Dade County, he summoned a group of us from our department to work with the University of Miami to find researchers who could deliver this kind of high quality study. And those researchers led by Dr. Todd Warner did an exceptional job of putting together this study, which illustrates the nomenclature of the school to prison pipeline. And we think that we want to leverage this data, this proof of a systematic pattern to hopefully bring about transformative policy change as well as practice change. In the same way that Birmingham in 1963 dramatized segregation and led to the Civil Rights Act, and Selma dramatized the Barriers to Voting Rights Act, the barriers to voting, and led to the Voting Rights Act. We want to dramatize a shameful issue. We want to dramatize a condition that has put forth so many barriers and so many limitations on generations of people now, and it dovetails right into the conversation that you all were just having about family dynamics. As Suzette mentioned, the mission of our agency is to ensure the equitable economic participation of Blacks in Miami-Dade County. It's hard to participate with a criminal record. It's hard to participate when you don't have a school system that has programs that are preparing young people to be economically viable for the future of the economy. So we want to bring all of this to the light. We want to dramatize this data, and I think that the school to prison pipeline and mass incarceration is arguably the issue of our generation. This is something that has been so, Tupac said in the 90s that it's not a secret, don't conceal the fact that penitentiaries packed and it's filled with Blacks, and we become so used to it. We become so desensitized to it. This is not even an election issue. When's the last time this has been on the national radar in terms of real policy solutions being offered? And so with presidential candidates come from the state of Florida, this should be a presidential issue. This should be a voting issue. This should be something that we demand a plan, and we demand immediate action.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Suzette, I mean, I know that by you being as an attorney, what are your thoughts on is this more of a legal action? Is it an economic action that we need to take? Where do we start with this? Or is this just the simple fact that, as Dr. Bright mentioned, culturally, it's no longer a priority?
No, I think this is a great first step of laying the foundation for the truth. Again, and with my attorney hat on, people like to deny, actual facts, but you can't deny them. Once we see this kind of longitudinal study that has been done looking at true numbers versus the population size in terms of who it seems are the brunt of the arrests in Miami-Dade County. Again, this story is not unusual for any large urban area, but we see disproportionately that Black youth are, in fact, those at the end of the law enforcement penalties. And again, this can change the trajectory of their lives at very, very young ages. And I want to ask Dr. Bright, as what are the implications that you see? I think we could see, legal interventions and perhaps lawsuits. But what would the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust like to see as a result? What are the implications that you find are necessary in terms of change that we want when it comes to what this study, produced and showed to be fact? that we are only a very small part of the population here. 14%, as I said, 9% of our youth between 13 and 17 are Black boys. So what are the implications of the study in your opinion, sir?
Well, it's a multifaceted issue, cross system. There's not one silver bullet. We're actually having a school to prison pipeline symposium for those in South Florida on October 5th at 5:30 p.m. at St. Thomas University to really galvanize around this issue and to put forth and to take in potential solutions. One solution that we want to put forward is the need for universal early learning coverage. So many of our young people are going into school already behind from a literacy, from a reading standpoint, and then they stay behind by that third grade period. In third grade, you're supposed to be reading to learn, and then by the time they reach high school, a lot of our high schools, 70% of the school are not reading on grade level, and so then you become disillusioned with school. You're more likely and more susceptible to engage in behaviors that may lead to arrest. We also, in the same way that after the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas tragic shooting in Parkland, Florida, a few years ago, it was mandated to have a school resource officer in every school. There should also be a mandate to have a mental health coordinator in every school to help coordinate mental health services for the community, so that it can be institutionalized. Those services that Ms. Plessy was speaking about in terms of the mental health intervention that we need, that should not happen by happenstance, but that should be an intentional something that happens in all of our schools, and we simply don't have the personnel to do that right now. Also, it's not just enough to disrupt the school to prison pipeline, but we have to build new pipelines of career opportunity. We're in Miami, and this is the #1 city in America for tech job sector growth, #1 city in America for tech job sector migration. We didn't land on Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley landed on us, and many of the jobs are not going to our community because we're not prepared for them. We're not prepared because the skill sets are not the mechanisms, the curriculum to gain the valuable skill sets are not in the school system. Most of the schools don't have computer science. If they do have it, it's at a bare minimum level, and that's just one of the marketable skill sets. There are 700,000 jobs, for example, in cybersecurity that are unfilled right now in our country. We need to have those industry recognized credentials embedded in our schools. We need to have trade certifications embedded in our schools so that our young people can graduate with a certification that will enable them to be economically viable in this economy, so that they'll be less susceptible to the school to prison pipeline.
Absolutely. We got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, we'll continue the conversation with Dr. Marcus Bright, my sister Suzette Speaks, and of course you, crew. I'm going to share, start getting your comments on this as we're talking about ensuring the success of Black youth and Black businesses. It's a relationship that we need to take another look at to help us to understand how we can find some sustainability, how we can build some community with those two groups of folks. So folks, we'll continue the conversation on the other side. Join us in the conversation. Just check us out on YouTube, on the Roland Martin's YouTube page, and join us in the chat as a Culture Crew member, and stick around. You're tuned into The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
President Biden has delivered for Black America. More funding for Black entrepreneurs. Millions of new, good-paying jobs. He's lowering the cost of medications and the cost of living. Joe Biden is delivering for us, and that's the facts.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We are having a very informative conversation with our very special guest, Dr. Marcus Bright, who is working in the area of Black businesses, but more importantly, doing the work of serving as an administrator with the Miami-Dade County area as part of the Economic Advocacy Trust. And Dr. Bright, Suzette, your guest, is kind of helping us to understand the relationship between the disproportionate disparities of Black youth who are arrested, Black youth who are stuck in the prison, school to prison pipeline, to the success of Black businesses and to the growth of communities. And, I will say, Dr. Bright, dear brother, that it is important for us to connect these dots, right? Because they're all interrelated. And so this is one of those conversations that you really got to tune into, because people, it's something that we talk about, but at the end of the day, it requires work. It requires collaborations and partnerships from everyone from school officials to law enforcement officials to community members. I mean, it requires a all hands on deck response. And Suzette, again, we thank you for inviting our brother to the table, because it's just too important. We're seeing it time and time again. My son is a fourth grader, and thinking about that one statistic, that by the time a Black boy gets to the third grade, that things start to change. And I thank God that my son, of course, I'm in his life. He got his mom in his life. But then he had a Black teacher, a Black man who's a teacher in his second grade, who helped him to shape his sense, right? And so just kind of making sure that the path that he takes as he grows up, that there is that constant affirmation of his Blackness, his boyness, his value, right? And that he has a support system. He has his dad and a mom who's going to be there for him. So, Susan, I just wanted to throw that out there, because there's a lot of different pieces to this conversation. It's not just about economics. It's not just about, making sure your children get to school. There has to be a community there.
Yeah, absolutely. But it does start with the education piece, because I want to ask a little bit more about why this is happening. At the CBC, Congressional Black Caucus, I was looking for my notebook real quick on break, because I sat in a discussion that talked about the role that police play who are inside of schools. That school resource officer, Farajii, they say once a resource officer is placed inside a school, the amount of arrests in that school goes up exponentially. And there was an argument being made.
Wait a minute. From the resource officer bit?
Aides, not officers inside school. I had never heard it placed like that until I went to this forum at CBC. So I thought, wow, you think protection and you think, but the county sheriff not just sitting there every day twiddling his thumbs, he looking to do a job, right? So instead of there being some sort of administrative remedy, oftentimes we see arrests go up dramatically due to resource officers. Now, everybody in speaking of different departments have different policies around this country. I'm not speaking again for Miami-Dade. I'm just looking at, post the discussion we had at CBC that, again, we brought to light what is going on and why. That was one unique aspect of this whole discussion I had not even thought about, because again, you think safety officer, great, there's more safety, but there are data points that show there are more arrests as a result of there being an actual law enforcement officer at a school. So there's a double-edged sword there. But I want to ask, Dr. Bright, based on his research, where do you see these numbers coming from? What is the origin of this? Are Black kids, just Black boys in specific, doing just more bad stuff? What is happening here, and why do you think these numbers are skewed the way they are? You're muted, sir. Sorry.
We certainly have implicit bias as historic in nature that deals with the perception of Black youth, and particularly Black males, and the assumption of criminality. The point that you made about school resource officers is certainly at play as well. In Florida, as I mentioned, it's now state law. And one of the reasons why we wanted to highlight this data and highlight this issue is that there is not a uniform standard. There's a need to look at the role of school resource officers and the use of them to as school disciplinarians. So what used to be a school fight that may be handled by the principal or administration, people are now getting arrested for and getting criminal records for in too many cases. And so it's a multifaceted issue, but it's something that we certainly want to put attention on. So I think there's a prevention apart from a behavior standpoint, but then there's also an internal reform that's needed within law enforcement agencies, and that's you're talking about public policy, but also policy within departments. And as you mentioned, my brother, I have a son too, and this is a deeply personal issue. I spent 4 years as the principal administrator for a program down here called the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence Project, which is the biggest school system-based mentorship program in the country, mostly Black boys in 120 schools. And there's no way that I spent 4 years around these schools, and so many people spend so much time trying to prevent the school to prison pipeline, and it's heartbreaking for them to grow up and be targeted for arrest due to them being undereducated and over incarcerated. But we can make a change to keep attention on this issue. Have to.
Well, thank you, Doc, for everything you're doing. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, dear brother. We thank you. Yes, sir. We got to take a quick pause. When we come back, more conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
On his first day in office, with the country in crisis, President Biden got to work for us. Cutting Black child poverty in half, more money for Black entrepreneurs, millions of new, good-paying jobs. He's lowered the cost of living and prescription drugs. But there's more to do. He gets it because we all deserve dignity, safety, respect, and a chance to do more than just get by, but to get ahead.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm joined by my sister Suzette Speaks. Suzette, and I'm glad that we had at least, had the start of that conversation because it brought into focus a lot of things that this effort, this school to prison pipeline, I don't know about anyone else. It feels like it's a concerted effort. Like this is not some conspiracy. This is not something like that people just making up in their heads. Like this is really the track that we're on. So as a community, as a people, we really have an uphill battle in trying to disrupt this whole process, right? And it's going to take brothers like you brought on, Dr. Marcus Bright. It's going to take community. It's going to take a lot of people, man, to disrupt this. But the thing that kept going back into my mind, do people have the will to want to change this? You see what I'm saying? Even within us, do we have the will to want to stop this pipeline from happening? Do we have the will to interrupt and disrupt this track that Black boys and Black girls are on, this death trap? Right, this death track. So that's the part about it, because there are things happening within our culture. I love parts of our culture, and then I hate other parts of our culture. But when it comes to school, when it comes to the school to prison pipeline, I'm looking in the chat right now, Suzette, and people are like, we need morals back. We need parents that are more, parents that are parenting. Children need to know who God is. and having that faith exposure. I mean, we really have gone off track. We have allowed the school system to dictate the agenda and the journey of our children instead of us taking on this journey on our own.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack that
Oh, yeah.
we can go back and forth on, because even during the CBC discussions, I'm sorry I keep referring to them, but they were so enlightening. When I think about some of these same, talking points when it comes to, obviously, we're grateful if you do have good parents and your parents understand the school system and your parents are engaged and have the flexibility to take time off and go see your teacher and make sure they're asking for report cards and doing all the things that we, especially if you're middle class, you're used to seeing. But there are a group of people that unfortunately their children deserve a chance, but they don't have, whether it be economics, whether it be the understanding and the ability to engage the way parents ought to engage. And I think we have to be, very realistic. There are students that are going to have to lean into the school and its resources far more than some of us who have, good foundations, right? When I think about, again, I'm very lucky. Sometimes you don't think of yourself as being blessed in a certain way until you talk to someone who was maybe an ESOL or English as a second language person, where their parents can't even read the paperwork, much less know what's going on. So they are going to have to lean into the school to understand what is happening, and for teachers and other administrators and counselors to step into the gap. But again, when it comes to socioeconomics and, like I said, overall exposure, children, shouldn't have to be relegated to a certain outcome because their parents don't know better. And I think that's a very difficult question to address. And we in the community agree or disagree on how to approach that. But we have to be very realistic that not everybody's parents are coming to the school at the same level. And do we believe as a community that that child deserves a fighting chance, whether or not their parent is literate or can read or has 2 or 3 jobs and will never probably see their homework or those type of things? This is a reality. There are kids that come to school hungry every single day. And again, you can't imagine that, okay, school lunch could mean so much. There are a myriad of issues our students are coming to school with, and to say that parents have to deal with it or that they should. Now, I would agree with the should part, but many cannot or do not for whatever reason. Then we have to say, now what, right? What is the safety net? Do we believe in a safety net through the school system? And if we do, we have to fight for it.
And I think to that point, it also opens up the conversation about, our expectations of government. Because I'm seeing, for example, you don't like my music. You said the job of government is to give poor kids the same opportunity as rich kids. But is that the case?
There are various philosophies. Some people would agree, some people would disagree. That's what I'm saying. Multiple takes on that very statement.
Right. Like should the government, how much should the government do? Where does the government intervention stop and community intervention start? You know what I'm saying? Like creating the balance and the boundaries around that. Because like the brother said, I mean, he's working in a quasi-governmental institution, right? Looking at all of these things, part of the Economic Advocacy Trust organization, and just trying to see this situation out. But government can't save us, Suzette.
Can't, but it can make things more equitable. That I know it can.
But so here's the thing. Now that I would agree with. It can make us. It can make things.
It matters.
Hey, can I throw in a caveat on that?
Please, tell me.
Only if there is the will of the government to do that. When you are at war with your government,
this is
the way Black folks are, the way we find ourselves, and look, the stuff that, if you really think about it, folks, the stuff that we're asking for from the government is not something outside of their purview of work. It's not something that's completely like, you want civil rights. What the hell is that? Nobody is saying. We want the same rights. We want the same opportunities. We want the same advantages and privileges, right? As white Americans, as Native Americans, as the majority, right? In this case, it will probably be white Americans, right? So we want those same things. But even with good-hearted, well-intentioned individuals in these governmental spaces, why don't the government, and I'm saying government as an institution, why do we got to go to war with a government or institution that says that it's supposed to protect and preserve our rights? In 2023, why does there continues to be a school to prison pipeline in 2023?
I hear you. And again, I've seen this comment even below our shows after the show. If you're watching Team Replay, leave your comments on today's discussion. But people, I've seen someone ask, why won't the government just do the right thing? And I hear that loud and clear. But we have to just remember, that's why it all comes back for me, starts with voting. And there's no prerequisite to running for office in the United States except to be a citizen. But your own philosophies, your own background, your qualifications, depends on what the voters approve or not. So any person, you have Marjorie Taylor Greene, you have people who somewhat argue, don't have the, what should I say, acumen to handle issues on behalf of all Americans the way that we should have, representation. But yet someone voted for her. So we have to just remember there's no gatekeeping in politics. Anybody from the truck driver to the baseball player to the doctor to whoever else, Joe Blow from down the street can run for office. The only people that we have vet these people is the voters. You decide whether or not you want that county commissioner, that city commissioner, that, list all the stuff. And I know it can get out of hand. People are so, overwhelmed sometimes even by their ballots. But we are the check and balance. We are the stopgap, because once someone who has perhaps a different, I don't even call it just a different philosophy, but even a maybe dangerous philosophy gets in there, they have the rights as the same, as the same, official that comes from a whole different worldview and philosophy. And that's why we see Congress at a loggerheads. We see people, when I look back at some of the legislation passed in my very state, I think about how many people did not, become the stopgap, did not vote.
That's real.
And so at the end of the day, anybody with an opinion can sit in an office. Anybody with an opinion can get themselves qualified to be on a ballot. That's the American system is so beautiful that, again, we didn't require now elite land owning white men to run the government. Now anybody can do it. So we now have to vet them ourselves at the ballot box. It's not to say that you won't have some people that'll lie or, change up when they get there. But as a whole, if we just ignore it, again, like many of us, Black, white, everybody, we just look at 100 million people don't vote in the presidential elections. So when we look at it, again, we are at a loss for power. Then we look up and say, how come government don't? No, it is up to us to make sure we are electing people who have the same philosophies about what we just discussed as we do. And that we are encouraging our brothers and sisters with the right heart, the servant's heart, to go out there and fight on our behalf, to get in these offices. I just met at CBC a wonderful young lady who's on a city commission in Waycross, Georgia. And she talked about how, her even being there was just a beacon of light to people who are very economically, deprived. Like people don't really have a lot of social mobility there. And what she wants to do is bring YMCAs and stuff. And I was like, thank God there are people like her that run for office, right? But she's just an everyday person, right? An administrator that looked around and said, I have an idea of how I can make this community better. We need more people like that. And then when they do run, we need to support them. But if we want to sit on back and look, oh boy, look what the school's doing. We're having a meeting here also we had a bond issue, all the bond money that was raised. Why aren't they at the Black schools, right? We have a state rep right now just called me, look, please distribute this because we got to talk about where the money's being spent. Why can't they just do what's right? Well, the people sitting on that dais don't have the same framework of values you and I have. So if we sit quiet and we don't hold them accountable, they'll spend our money. They'll spin it the way they deem fit. And we oftentimes get left out. This is a story that has already been told. We have pushed the hand of American democracy into the right direction of equality for all. We were not even a part of the experiment. right? So to say, well, they just gonna do what is right by us, we have. I can't.
No, that's I hear you. Suzette, I hear you. Suzette, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that we have to change our relationship. But most importantly, we got to change our mindset, because at this point, the government is working, and some people say the government the way it is working the way it's supposed to. No, the government is actually breaking down. It's breaking down. Even for white Americans, for Black Americans, for Native Americans, for Latino and Hispanic Americans, for all of these groups of people, the government is not at the capacity that it can fully address all of the needs, the interests, the demands of all of these groups of people. So at some point, Black America has to step up and say, like you said, we got to be the stopgap. We got to shift something. We got to do something different. We got to have a different relationship. All right, speaking of government relationships and all of the good things, final few moments. The second GOP debate is going to be held here in the state of California tonight.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
I'll be watching.
Oh, I was going to ask, are you going to be watching?
Lord, I have to.
You're going to be. Yeah,
pretty
I know.
much the same lineup as before. The people that
except,
so Mr. Trump.
Except Mr. Trump and Mr. Asa Hutchinson.
Oh, Asa didn't make this round. Okay, I was.
Yeah, he didn't qualify for this round based
and he's
upon
one of the more reasonable ones. As a governor,
yeah. So Mr. Hutchinson won't be there, but there will be 7 GOP candidates at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library event hosted by, once again, Fox Business News. Trump will be in Michigan delivering a primetime address, attempting to really capitalize on the auto workers union strike, and of course, trying to appeal to that group of the population. But guess what? There is pressure on Republican candidates to really start pushing Trump out of the way. And we will see what is going to be said about this latest decision. And this may come up now where we talked about Letitia James, the Attorney General out of New York, about, now that Trump has been deemed that Trump has defrauded investors and bankers. I wonder if this will come up in the conversation. Like, will the same group of people support him?
Farajii, they're still afraid. He's still literally the front runner. I hope.
How can look? If the man is
91 counts, 4 times indicted.
91 counts, 4 times indicted. But more important, this is more important. I think out of all of the charges, this is really damning in the sense that if he is deemed guilty of defrauding banks and investors, of overvaluation of his properties, his assets, and all of this stuff, what do you think he's going to do with the money of the United States of America?
My thing is, listen, the folks are still in a kind of trance. It doesn't make any sense when you're looking at actual evidence of what the paperwork said versus the actual value of all these properties. It's blatant, disregard for the law. And you can't just make up stuff and it be true. And again, he's floated on this kind of, myth of him being this amazing businessman, and no one kind of checked the Carfax, but they've been checked now, right? We've gone into thousands of pages of documents that look at what he said versus what was the reality. So I don't know what else can wake up a base that still, like, it's almost like 75% would still consider voting for him. But again, Cassidy Hutchinson just dropped a book about January 6th. We need to kind of pay attention again, insider view of how this man thinks. Hopefully some of these things will start to awaken the base, but we'll have to see.
We will have to see, but I bet you it's going, if people people are expecting the big takedown of Trump, right? Whether it's from candidates, whether it's from the legal system, people expect, somebody's going to take him down. We might be looking at a situation where it's called the gradual takedown, where it's just like pieces by pieces. We're all experiencing this journey. It's not like one big fell swoop. All of us are watching every brick by, as the great Franklin Saint from the show When he said that brick by brick, we are seeing the gradual breakdown of this man, the myth, all of this stuff. And so it's going to be very interesting. I do want to know how the candidates are going to respond to the Trump question. I do want to know how Vivek Ramaswamy, who had made a name for himself from the first debate, how he's going to come out. You got Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, whose campaign is struggling right now and who needs to make a name for himself, break out. Is Tim Scott going to step up and continue to be the quote unquote black face of the Republican Party? Or is he going to try to do something different? Is Governor Nikki Haley going to do something different? Like, there are a lot of different narratives and storylines out there. So it will be interesting to see how this thing plays out. But here's the other thing, very quickly. Republicans had 2 debates. This is going to be the second one. When are we going to have a Democratic debate?
Well, listen, they said that the front runner. This is too long of a conversation to have with. Since
it is too long. I'm just throwing it out there, Suzanne. Can we get a Democratic debate? Can we get one?
This is too long for us to have right now.
Yo, you funny as hell. You funny. You know what? You came back from the CBC real brand new, Suzanne. Real brand.
We can go there. But we ain't got that time right now. So.
Also, I want to know, can I get a Democratic debate, y'all? Can we get one? Can we get at least one? Can I get at least 6 or 7 candidates? Because right now.
But again, none of those other candidates poll higher than 1%, Farajii. So we can have but
you talking about
Newsom, or if the gentleman from Texas, Castro brothers, or any of these people end up on a ballot, they have less than 1% recognition, nationally speaking. So we can have it. But that's why, again, people are going to get mad. I want you guys to look at what Biden has done, especially as it pertains to Black folks. I posted it on my Instagram stories. I think it's so funny sometimes to me how we as Black people can be led against our very own interests. And again, we can talk about the third party, we can talk about other things, but when we know the outcome is that a country that is 50-50 divided, if any part of that base moves a little bit, you're giving it to another person. I think there is a lot of discussion that needs to be had about direct implications, but also the successes. I think the messaging around what has actually been done is very convoluted. We need it much more straightforward so people can understand how this current administration has worked on their behalf. But nonetheless, I just came back from CBC, so I'm
it's all good.
Brimming
I love the energy. I love the energy. All right,
go into, but I know we got to go.
We got to go. Hey, Suzette, it's always a pleasure. I truly appreciate you, the reporting, the special guests, and all of that you bring to the table. So thank you, my sister. Always good to reconnect with you. And hey, y'all, if y'all didn't know, Suzette was on Cloud 29 when she visited our station, our studio in Washington, D.C. She went to see a taping of Roland Martin Unfiltered.
It was, let me tell you, Mr. Martin don't play about his stuff, right? But I know all the equipment. He has the most advanced version, from cameras, lighting. It is.
That's why we ask people to get.
He competes with CNN all day. When I walked in, I was like, yes. It was amazing. So
look, that's why we ask people for their support. I mean, y'all thinking this is the support goes into making sure that we have the highest quality of equipment. We get the greatest, some of the dopest professionals out of the industry to be a part of these productions. I mean, hands down, I got one of the best teams in the industry. You know what I'm saying? From
investments, guys. This is what brings our perspective.
This is what we do.
Public, I saw it with my own eyes. So I said, okay, I know.
She's a believer now, y'all. She's a believer. We got a convert now.
Right, for real.
Hey, don't be surprised y'all see the Suzette Speak show on Black Star Network. Just don't be surprised.
You never know, Farajii. But
don't
just
be surprised.
Be there, I saw it, firsthand. His amazing crew, 5-6 folks that help produce. You think it's simple? It's not simple. Those live shows. No. A lot of moving parts. I got to meet U.S. Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock while I was in studio last week. It was an amazing experience. Shout out to the visionary, Mr. Roland Martin, and again,
Absolutely.
his top-notch facilities that he has set up. Again, Black excellence at its best. That's all I got to say about that.
There it is. There it is. Suzette Speaks. Make sure y'all follow her on all social media platforms. Check her out on her YouTube show. And make sure y'all support her on Pantheon. Man, she's doing a fantastic work, always having the dopest conversations. And y'all know how she brings it here every Wednesday here on the show. And we're just so grateful to have her part of the team. And she's officially now been inducted into the Black Star Network family. Not only has she been on the show, but she's been to the headquarters.
To the studios. Let's go. Thank you, Farajii.
She's been baptized now, y'all. Baptized. There it is.
You. All right, my brother. Bye, Coach.
Talk to you soon.
See you next week. Thank you.
All right, peace, Suzette. Thank you so much. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Thank y'all so much for checking us out. Big shout out to my online culture crew. Y'all are doing a fantastic job keeping the conversations going. Big shout out to all of those who invested in the work that we're doing here at Black Star Network. Folks, make sure you go to our website today. If you haven't had a chance to invest, you can do so today at blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. You can download the app for free on all of your devices. Follow us on social media, but your financial donations, as you heard our sister Suzette say, getting state-of-the-art equipment, getting high-class quality professionals to work behind the scenes, and more importantly, to deliver programming that is culturally relevant just for us here in this time at this moment. So, folks, make sure you give your hard-earned money to something to help it. We're not asking for $1 million or $1,000, but whatever you can give, it's always helpful in pushing us forward in this digital movement that we're a part of. So go to blackstarnetwork.com. And we want to say big shout out to all of our distributors, Amazon News, Plex TV. We also shout out to the social media for continuing to deliver us in this space on YouTube and Facebook. And I want to give a major shout out to my production team, Joel, Shannon, my sister Lise Winnie, Maddie B, my man Chris, and of course King Keenan for making this show happen each and every day. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Peace.